In our last lesson, we talked about ornamental tones or embellishing tones in simple chorale style. It's called chorale style for a reason. We're talking about music meant to be sung. When a group of people are singing a chord, it's not easy to simultaneously sing another note that isn't part of the chord. For this reason, all the ornamental note formulas we discussed in our last lesson involve stepwise movement. Passing notes and neighbor notes both arrive and leave by step, and suspensions are tied over and then resolved by step, usually downward in classical tonal harmony. Thus, the voice leading of these embellishing notes is simple, straightforward, smoothly integrating the non-chord tone into the texture. The suspension is a remarkable invention. At some point, somebody realized that one way to sing a note not already sounding in the chord was to take a note from the previous chord and just keep holding it, in effect delaying one voice's movement to the next chord. But suspension still resolves by step. There's one more kind of embellishing tone called an Apothetura, from the Italian for leaning. An Apothetura is an accented dissonant note approached by leap that then resolves by step. Here's an example. It's not a coincidence that the Apothetura only starts to appear in Western music in the Baroque era, at the same time as instrumental writing begins to become more independent from vocal style. Playing a chord, including an unprepared dissonance, is much easier on an instrument than in the voice. Apothituras were often used in early operas as a way to underline emotional moments. In fact, if one appears in a chorale-style context, it usually sticks out as a bump in the texture. For this reason, apothituras are usually limited to special, intense moments, or else used consistently as motives throughout a given passage. As time went on, embellishing notes became more and more common, to the point where composers started sometimes using them as part of the harmony. In fact, simply repeating a chord, including an embellishing note, creates what we might see as a seventh chord instead of a triad. Here, the chord on the first beat is a simple D minor triad, and the chord on the third beat keeps all the voices the same except the soprano, which now sounds more like a chord in its own right, a passing seventh chord. From here, it's not a big step to the following situation, where the seventh chord is treated like an Apothetura, unprepared, but it still resolves into the next chord. It's as though the seventh has become frozen here, creating a separate harmony by itself. Over time, ornamental chords gradually became more independent this way, and the use of seventh chords became normalized. We'll have more to say about this in the coming lesson.